Another day, another mid-battle shonen that would make your average King West baddie blush with shame. Centuria isn't good. Julian is a stowaway on a slave ship that sets sail for the Great Continent. Along the way, him and the 100 other slaves end up in some shenanigans, and Julian ends up absorbing their souls due to some nautical powers. He escapes to land with a baby in tow, Diana, who just so happens to be destined for something much greater and darker. I fucking get it now. The mangaka Christopher can't write well, so they're relying on found family as a crutch. Their early adventures have been pretty okay, but nothing stellar. After fighting off some sea creatures and some forest creatures and dealing with some community politics, Julian finds himself being a strong surrogate to Diana, but the mood, the vibe of Centuria just isn't hitting. These characters are so surface level. The way they communicate, it doesn't feel natural. In chapter 10, Julian decides that he and Diana should move away from the village because of the danger that the nearby forest presents. TT, the resident mascot of this series, who has had no contributions to the plot so far, with no noticeable fan service, feels obligated to move with these strangers whom she just met not even that long ago. Angvall, the fat titty battle waifu, who happens to be the best thing in this series, who almost died due to the forest creatures that were targeting Julian, also decides to abandon her already established life and just go along with him. Not that there's anything wrong with this plot device, it's common and it works, but why did the mangaka rely on a flashback to reinforce Titty's and Angvall's connection prior to their eagerness to move with Julian? The main plot of Centuria is alright, but the side characters, their motivations and personalities all seem to be written on a week-by-week basis. Nothing feels organic. Toru Kuramori doesn't know what to spend time on. The house was built too quickly, so it doesn't really add any significance to the series. But then the usefulness of this house by the sea is immediately thrown to the side when the new antagonists come to the village looking for Julian and Diana. This just seems like a huge waste of time, and while I would like to see the house be revisited in the future, it possibly can. Why commit to it so early if it's not going to play a pivotal role in the plot? Every chapter, there is some reminder about how the village is a family, why you should put your life on the line for friends, some juvenile crap. Even faceless enemies have to spout the power of friendship in the middle of battle. And don't get me started on the flashbacks. I had a big problem with how Kagurabachi abused flashbacks in its earlier chapters, but Hokazono moved on from that crutch. I'd like to see Kuramori do the same. But to be honest, Kuramori has a lot of other issues that they should be focused on. They aren't a well-rounded artist. I can't stress that enough. Characters are never drawn at angles unless they're in motion, which is a telltale sign of an inexperienced mangaka. And don't get me started on the hands. Regardless of how much you like drawing something, it should fall within the realm of possibility. In Centuria, characters' fists are as big as their heads, if not bigger in some panels. The expressions also aren't drawn well. However, fantasy elements, they look very good. Creatures of the forest were a letdown, but the nautical elements are always a strong standout. I really hope we can move back into that direction because that's where Kuramori's aesthetic really shines. Centuria is a hard manga to stomach because it's obvious that the mangaka doesn't want to tell such a juvenile story. Over the 19 chapters, very little has actually happened. Julian has yet to develop any sort of combat repertoire. He's either punching people, getting punched, gripping Diana to his chest while getting knocked around, or lunging away from the enemy. He doesn't have a weapon yet, and the last 5 chapters have focused on giving a fan-favorite character multiple death flags. The magic system of this world hasn't been pushed since the cast left the forest. That's annoying. And Angvall. I really like Angvall. In fact, She's one of my favorite characters out of manga this year, but her battles leave so much to be desired, and everything she's done so far feels like a waste of good character design. I'm kinda even feeling that the mangaka wished that Angvall was the main character of this series, because they're so much more developed and more interesting than Julian, and that's not a compliment, believe me. But despite all of this, there is a really strong story here. If Centuria was being published monthly in a more mature magazine, then it would be a lot stronger. I feel Toru Kuromori's art is the kind of art that needs to be 40 to 50 pages a month instead of 16 pages every week. This would give them more of a chance to develop not only their plot, but also how the characters look, how battles look, the surroundings of this world, and just overall create a better product. I don't like the shonen tropes being thrown in every fucking chapter because it feels like editorial interference. I've seen this too many times with other shonen manga that have been quickly cancelled, and I would hate to see that happen with Centuria, because I truly do believe it can be a Gen Z version of Vagabond, Vinland Saga, Berserk, those sorts of normie fantasy series that have strong stories about found family, but can also get very visceral and gory when they need to. I'm still sticking with this manga. I enjoy it at times, and I like the fact that it comes out weekly, but I just don't think the author is there yet. Centuria is a 5 out of 10.